Welcome to part 4 of putting a Sankey diagram into your model. We've got one. This is part 4. You'll want to see parts 1 through 3 if you haven't seen it yet to see how we get to this point. In part 3, I promised you that in part 4 we would show you how to update that graph dynamically while the model's running, but I lied. We're going to push that off to part 5. Part 4, what we're going to do is show you how you can dynamically alter this model and still have it show up in that Sankey diagram. So for instance, if I wanted to drag out another processor here, put it into the flow, it wouldn't just automatically work with this Sankey diagram. This processor's missing some things. It's missing the labels, and it's missing an on-entry trigger. Now, to put the labels on, all I need to do is hit reset. Because, if you recall, last time in part 3, we put a model trigger on reset that will add the labels we need to any object that is added to the model. So why don't we extend that same concept to the entry trigger as well? That way, anytime you add any object to the flow of your model, it will automatically show up when you want to view the Sankey diagram. Okay, so first up, let's make a comment here. So we've already got the on-entry trigger here. What we want to do is see if the function call to that user command exists in there. So what we do is we'll just go ahead and get the code out of there, the on-entry code, from the on-entry trigger node. And then we'll do a string search. And we'll look for the name of that user command right there. So we'll start it right at the beginning of the code. And if it's not in there, then we'll get a -1 as the search. So if it's not in there, let's go ahead and add it in. So what we'll do is we'll do a set node stir on the on-entry trigger node with concatenation of the current code that's in there, but we want to put this function call to start. We'll put a new line there, and we'll even put a little comment so that you can see it from the triggers page. And another new line. Okay, so now we just need the parameters here. Now what we're doing is we're prepending this code to the front of the actual on-entry code. If we look at an object's on-entry trigger, what we're essentially going to do is take this and insert it right at the beginning after a comment. So at this point we don't actually have item, current, or port there. So we need to access those variables like so. The reason I want to put it right at the front is because you know, what if this on-entry trigger already had some other code in it? It's doing something else. We just put it right in the front, gets it out of the way. So what we'll do is we'll just take these, get that out of the way, and put it right in there. And I think that will do it. So after we set the string in there, that's not all we've got to do. We've got to see if this node was toggled as flex script. So if it wasn't toggled as flex script, -1 queries the value. So if it's not set there, then we want to go ahead and set it as flex script on. And then, no matter whether it was flex script or not before, now it is, and we need to rebuild that flex script because we just changed it. Okay, so this little snippet of code is all we've added, but what it should do is allow us to change this model in pretty much any way. So like we just did, we added in this processor. Let's go ahead and, as the example from the start of our first section of the tutorial, let's do a tester process. And this tester will say 90% of the flow items are good, and they'll go out port 1, but 10% of the flow items need rework. They'll go out port 2. So we'll link it into the flow. Oops. I guess I deleted that sync. Huh? So 90% are good. The other so many percent, 10% are bad, and they'll just get sent back to this queue for rework. Okay? So let's save our model here. Reset. Now reset. What should it have done? Should have added labels. Should have added a trigger. Good. Good. Nice. Everything's there. I think this is going to work. So here we go. Let's run this. Okay, the model runs fine. And if we look at our tables, the tables are populated. Okay, now let's look at our Sankey diagram. Alright, look at that. Source to the queue. Queue to the 3 processors. Doom, boom, doom. 3 processors to the tester. Tester 90% to the sink. 10% loop back to the queue. Pretty nice. Okay, so that was part 4. Next time, part 5, we'll make it so that as you're running your model, you can keep this view open and it'll update. See, right now, we never had any loop back, but if we reopen it again, there will certainly be some. This graph is only generated when you open this custom GUI and is never touched again. So that'll be part 5 of the Sankey diagram tutorial. Thanks.